We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube, and also rate that show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Happy Friday. What is good, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. We have a lot to break down today because it's going to be Bears, Detroit Lions. So already you can let me know down below in the comments, who do you have winning the game? And today what we're breaking down the offense. I have some new awesome stats that I'm excited for us to go through that we will break down. So that's what I'm excited about. But also, Shy Drax, what's good? And you are absolutely correct. I was early with this. I'm hoping, what I'm thinking now is that it's going to be Sunday nights. I'm going to, Sunday nights, 7:30, and then Wednesday nights, 7:30. I'm going to try and get back to that schedule. So that's what I'm hoping for, at least. And also for those that joined us for our All 22 review, we only had it for an hour or so. And crazy enough, we only went through the running plays. We were just getting into the passing plays, but YouTube took it down. So I'm coming up with different alternatives for us to have some film reviews and other things. I might just end up posting a video of something that I see with it or stuff like that. But yeah, it's so much fun when we do those. But otherwise, I'll come up with something. We can always do like a free Patreon and then go out and have something like that. But I gotta look at why YouTube keeps yelling at me with that stuff. So, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Maybe the show's too popular. I'll spin up a different one and we can watch it there. But anyways, we got a like I was talking about before, Detroit versus the Bears. So what we're going to be breaking down is the special teams, offense, defense, injuries, most valuable Bear, who has the edge, all the stuff that you come to love. So let's get started with our first segment, the injury impact. So let's get into all the injury reports that we have out there. So first off, actually, you guys can see some of the other stuff. I was making sure that it looked nice at the very beginning of the show. So now you saw one of the cool graphics, if you saw it real quick, but we'll be going through that a little bit later. So when we look at the injury impact that we have people that should be healthy. So Jahdae Walker should be he's doubtful. Kyler Gordon out, so we're going to see most likely Nick McCloud still at that slot corner position, and Grady Jarrett listed as questionable. Did not participate with the knee injury Wednesday and Thursday, and was limited on Friday. Now Grady Jarrett, I hate saying this, did not he looked like what I was kind of expecting. He looked like what he did last year. Obviously, you hope that he looks better, every single week. But this interior is a very weak interior or that's their weak spot when you're talking about the offensive line for the Detroit Lions. So if you're going to want to attack them, you want to have Grady Jarrett so that you can have Grady Jarrett and Trevon Dexter trying to cause some havoc in the middle. While last week, that's one of the best offensive lines that you'll ever go against. Detroit, they're weak in the middle when you're looking at that offensive line. So that to me is the big one. But as we kind of continue to go through this, Josh Blackwell, TJ Edwards, Jalen Johnson, Roschon Johnson, and DJ Moore all are full goes. So getting Jalen Johnson back, but without Kyler Gordon, that's big. Amon-Ra St. Brown is their slot receiver, plays predominantly out there. That is why Kyler Gordon, pretty big loss. And something that we'll see, is Jalen Johnson going to track him even when he goes in the slot? My thought, probably not. But I would personally love it just because put best on best, mash him up that way. Let's see what's out there. Taco Man, what is good? Bear down to you too. And yeah, Sweat and Grady were non-existent. That is correct. But now let's flip over. Speaking of the Lions, wrong button. Let's flip over to the Lions and talk about theirs. Theirs is very basic. They just tell you like it is. Trevor Nowoski, elbow out. He's out with an elbow injury. Sion Vaki is doubtful, the running back who is like a former safety. And then Taylor Decker is questionable, and Kirby Joseph is also questionable. So big one just to at least monitor, in my opinion, is Kirby Joseph. Now, Taylor Decker being questionable, he actually also had a questionable game last week. Did not look as good as he normally did. But also it might be because, I hate saying this, the Packers defensive ends were pretty good. But also too, the run blocking just was, the run game was really non-existent for these Lions. They just looked a little discombobulated without Ben Johnson when they were trying to run the football. So big one to watch out for is though Kirby Joseph. I'd be shocked if Taylor Decker actually ends up not playing. So let's get into the stuff that we want to talk about, not just injuries. Let's talk a little bit about this opponent. So the Detroit Lions, as we know, they have lost a million different people out there. They've lost a million different coaches. It's really all about this coaching staff when you talk about the Detroit Lions, because losing Ben Johnson, losing Aaron Glenn, and losing all those different position coaches, you saw that last week. If you watched the Packer Lions game, you really did see a team that just felt like they were missing coaching. Now, something that I'm kind of anticipating is some sort of bounce back. Now, some of the stats will tell you that Dan Campbell's been pretty good. In the last 10 games, after losing a game, he's gone back and been 10-0. And also, on average, he's beaten the other team by multiple scores in all 10 of those contests. So yet again, that was him with Ben Johnson. That was him with Aaron Glenn. We have not seen him do this without Ben Johnson. So that to me is going to be the biggest story, is can his coaching staff really rally, and can his players rally against Ben Johnson? Because I guarantee you, they want to. It's that love, respect, where that they want to try and beat them and try and whoop up on Ben Johnson. Now, the question is, do the Bears want to try and whoop up on them? Now, the other piece too, they've tried to add in a couple extra little help. So having DJ Reed at defense as a cornerback, but then also too, I think Amik Robertson was there last year. But really, it's the story of the coaches. So let's flip over and start talking a little bit more about the Bears offense. So let's talk about this offense, because last week the Bears offense was hit or miss. Yeah, we'll say. When we talk about the Bears offense, let me kind of shift this over this side. Here, I'll move this little graphic. So the Bears offense, we know that it was really, really, really good when we had scripted plays. When we had scripted plays at the very first possession, the Bears look great. And that is something to me that, that's what they're going to do, right? First possession, that's when they should try to get points. Reminds you of a little bit of Matt Nagy, but it's everything in between. Now, when we look at this offense, I have a bunch of those metrics up there. You might have to watch this full screen and zoom in a little bit, because it's a lot of data. But a couple little nuggets. So the graphic that the people out there on YouTube can see, that's from Summer Sport. That data is from Summer Sports. There's a lot of data, different data pieces that are out there, but I want to throw a little bit of numbers out at you. So last week, the Bears had according to NFL Reference, the Bears had 3.1 rush yards before contact, which was 7th best. So meaning the blocking was halfway decent. Now, when we were watching the tape, it didn't look that way. There were some mishaps with it. But also, too, DeAndre Swift had, according to NFL Next Gen Stats, minus 1.19 rush yards over expected, which was the 5th worst in the entire NFL last week. So when you're talking about the run game, the Bears running game was not great. And like I said, that was the one thing that we all sat down and watched together. And as we're watching this, I totally agree with the DeAndre Swift narrative of him not being an efficient runner. You really saw that when we put on the tape. And it was him trying to make something big happen. Him getting the handoff and trying to do something with it. And it just simply did not work. Now, the defense that we're going against has been pretty good against the run. Let me just kind of pull this up. So they were very, very good. Let me just pull up my notes. Here we go. when it came down to the run defense, they averaged 3.1 yards a carry as a run defense for the Lions going against the Packers and Josh Jacobs, which they also had the 8th highest run defense expected or points expected given by a run defense, which is phenomenal. So all that you need to know, Lions run defense has been pretty darn good. And yet again, it's just been 1 week. So very, very small sample size. But the way that you can beat them is through the air. Now, that's when this has to be a big time, Caleb Williams game. How did they win? How did the Packers win? Well, if you look at this, the Detroit deep ball or the Detroit Lions were 31st in middle of the field EPA given up, which was 1.46, so EPA per play. So I guarantee you, someone who loves EPA is Ben Johnson. And I guarantee you he's looking at this, pointing at Caleb Williams saying, look at it. We can attack the middle of the field. That's how the Packers beat them. That's how the Packers ended up winning, was they were targeting middle of the field and they were able to make some big plays. Also, Detroit had 14.9% explosive play rate, which is awful. So even though they have good safeties, the Packers were still able to hit some big plays on them and just dominate them through the air. That's why Detroit last week was 30th in EPA per play given up by the pass. We were only 20th from our offensive perspective, so pretty darn good. But when you look at it too, for those that can see the graphics, we were 27th in successful run rate, which not great. EPA per rush, mid 20s. We need to get the passing game going. We have the weapons. We have the people. We have the horses. So to me, let's flip over to the actual graphics itself when we start breaking down the actual offense and what this looks like. Because to me, you have to give the ball to your receivers. And when we were watching the tape together and afterwards, now Caleb made some good throws and he made some good decisions. And I know Kurt Warner really kind of pointed that out. At the same time, in the same realm, right? It doesn't have to be black and white. Everything, it falls somewhere in between. With Caleb Williams, and you look at his grade too, 77.1 PFF grade, which was good for 13th highest among all quarterbacks. And he was also 21st in EPA per play as a quarterback last week. But worst in completion percentage above expected at negative 13.2, which means he was very inaccurate. That shows up on tape. You saw him miss throws. There was a couple plays too that when watching it through that he should have just kind of stayed on his target a little bit more. And I know that when we were talking about it, when we were doing the all 22 review, I was asked how concerned am I? I'm not heavily concerned because he's at least going through different targets and kind of understanding everything that's going on. And he was going against the Brian Flores defense, which is one of the most complex defenses that even pro NFL quarterbacks, still the top tier ones, still have problems with. So to me, I'm really excited to see what they're able to do with Caleb, and hopefully he can have that bounce back game. And that's what makes me feel a little bit more confident with him going into this game. So as we go through with this Bears team, right? Wide receivers, need to see more from Odunze. He was the 38th highest graded wide receiver, according to PFF, which is solid. Cole Kmet had a really good game. He had some really good blocks. I would love to just see him get the ball more, but looks like he does kind of have that Brock Wright, type of play to him. But really, if we flip over and talk a little bit more about their defense, even though they had good safeties, they were still prone to the deep ball. Now, one of the big reasons why was they had a 48% of the time they were stacking the box on defense, according to NFL Next Gen Stats, which was number 1 in the NFL. So they were just absolutely saying, we are not going to allow you to run the ball. You have to pass it on us. Now, for the Bears, are they going to try and mimic that exact same approach? Or are they going to say, we know DeAndre Swift can't beat us, so you're going to have to pass it on us? So they could switch that up. That's why only having 1 week of data is difficult, because you have literally no sample. You have one tiny little sample size that we have to look at. So they stacked the box. That's how they were like, Jordan Love has to beat us. They might have to do this exact same thing when it comes down to Caleb Williams and say, Caleb, you have to beat us. But like I said before, if I was actually Detroit, I'd rather say, okay, we're actually going to stop the passing game. DeAndre Swift, you have to beat us, because we have not seen DeAndre Swift really take over a game unless they're an absolutely awful defense, which the Detroit Lions are not. Also, the Detroit Lions blitzed on the sixth highest rate, according to NFL reference, at 34.8%, and had a measly pressure rate at 8.7%, which was actually the fourth worst. And a big reason, DJ Reader, their defensive tackle, seemed to look a little bit older. He's an older defensive lineman. Didn't look to be himself last week. And then also too, Tyleik Williams, someone that I know a lot of us really liked out of Ohio State. He's a run stuffer. He's not a pass rusher. And that's why, they were not generating a lot of pressure up the middle. And then also Marcus Davenport, being somebody that is always kind of off injured. You're always trying to hope that you get something more out of them. But they did not see that last week. And Aiden Hutchinson did not look as like his dominant self. I mean, it's hard to look like how Aiden Hutchinson looked last year, where Aiden Hutchinson literally had one of the greatest starts to a defensive end season that year. It was absolutely crazy. So that to me was so overall, this defense, they got some good pieces. They have some very, very good pieces. It just is all about their game plan and what they're going to try and roll out to you. But let me see what you all have to say out there in the comments. I've kind of been going on my own little rant out there. Let's see. Got Oracle. Oh, yeah. And then Shy Drax saying, Dan Campbell quote, "We're going to win this game. We have to." Yeah, I will say this. Whoever loses this game, like whoever is the loser of this game, you know that the headlines are just going to be absolutely crazy. Because if the Bears go 0-2, it's going to be Ben Johnson, isn't a good head coach. Caleb's not the guy. And if the Lions lose, it's going to be Dan Campbell is awful. He needs his coaches, right? There's going to be there's going to be no good like headline. It's all going to just skew towards one way or the other. But let's see. Oracle saying the whole team lost momentum in the second half. Correct. Caleb was disjointed in his brain to eye footwork, throw time. Yeah. And one of the things too that I don't have the exact stat, but because I think overall they ended up blitzing around 30%, a little over 30% of the time against Caleb. So the Vikings did that with Caleb. In the second half, it ramped up to like 60. I think someone said like 64%. It was crazy. So that's where they were really just trying to send the blitz and be like, okay, we're just going to disrupt you. We're going to constantly get in your face. We're going to constantly like make you throw off kilter, and it worked. So let's see what we're doing too. We got Don Burr. What's good, Don Burr? Saying Detroit versus everybody. We got Bajent and Ben equals dynasty. I'm sorry. I just think that that's good. We got Rod. What's good? Saying our defense can blitz Goff, get him to sack. Love it. Demond Dice saying Hutch was getting off on O lineman that had been past pro rating. Yeah, that is true. I don't have exactly who he was going against, but yeah. So overall, let me kind of flip this back up. What is your offensive matchup to watch out for? So who are you watching out for inside of this matchup overall? For the offense, Bears offense versus the Detroit Lions defense, because I'll tell you one. Because to me, the number one thing that I'm watching out for is Darnell Wright versus Aiden Hutchinson. Because Darnell Wright, when we're watching it back, right, on my show, I said that at the very beginning, the first watch, right? This is where the first watch, maybe I shouldn't say specific player names, because you see it and you don't know who was at fault, really. And then you watch the tape, and then you know who's at fault. When we watch the tape, Darnell Wright played phenomenally. The PFF grade, reflects that as well. Darnell Wright as the 7th highest graded offensive tackle in the league. Jonah Jackson, 65th out of 65 out of 65. So literally the worst guard in all of the NFL. Jonah Jackson was awful. Like, there's no qualms about it. Jonah Jackson was awful. And then 2, as we kind of continue to talk about this offensive line, Braxton Jones didn't look as great as he normally does in the running game. The passing game kind of getting pushed back. Not a great outing. But Joe Thuney and Drew Dahlman, they just look like they did not play. They don't play well together. You have Dahlman as someone who's very quick. Thuney, he's still quick, but like Dahlman's whole thing is the speed, is the quickness. Not saying that this is a giant concern. It's just saying that they need to learn how to work together. There's just so many different blocks that they patch up together, and then no one will get to the next level. And that is something that you need to see inside of this offense. They need to fine tune that a lot more. But yeah, Jonah Jackson was bad. Which the interior of the line for the Lions is a lot worse. Also, Javon Hargrave, holy crap, he absolute resurgence for the Minnesota Vikings. He looked unstoppable. No matter who he went against, he looked very, very, very good. And it wasn't just the person he was going against. He looked really good. So I think with that's why Darnell Wright to me is going to be the matchup to watch out for, because that will open up everything else. So now let's flip over to the Bears defensive preview. So as we go into the Bears defense was very, very good. Couple little stats that I'll throw out at you. Actually, I just deleted my notepad. Let me pull this back up real quick. Bears were 5th according to NFL Reference in their expected points added metric. Number 5, the 5th best defense, which shows a lot of just what Dennis Allen was trying to do, especially since we were missing so many defensive backs out there. We were also supposedly 4th according to NFL Reference. For those that are looking, you have the metrics from Summer Sports. So that's why if something doesn't completely match up, that's the reason why. And here, let me hide this other graphic, because this is where some things are slightly different, because Summer Sports says the Bears blitzed the 23rd highest rate at 23.1, while the NFL Reference says Bears only blitzed 12.5%. All that you need to know is the Bears did not blitz a lot. And that's what they wanted to do. They wanted J.J. McCarthy to try and beat them. And where J.J. McCarthy beat them was in the middle of the field. The Bears were 31st in EPA per play in the intermediate. So they gave up lots of big plays, intermediate spot of the field, which you could probably credit Noah Sewell. Also deep, they were 25th in EPA per play given up. So that intermediate to deep was not great for the Bears. Yet again, small sample size, but the Bears wanted them to throw it short, where they were number 2 best EPA per play, and they actually allowed 75% of the passes to be short passes. Might also just be because they were going against J.J. McCarthy, and they wanted that to be the thing. And then also, too, the Detroit offense was number 3 in most short passes. Now, the biggest critique that a lot of Detroit fans were giving out to their new offensive coordinator was that they were doing a lot of very, very short passes and just playing very conservatively rather than Ben Johnson trying to kind of run and gun a lot more. And also, too, you saw this offense for the Lions go away from a lot of the stuff that made them really good. They were 30th in overall motion percentage, which not good at all. Also play action, they were 26 in play action overall as well. So for those that are looking at the stats, number 1, that means that the Vikings ran the most number of play action last week. But also, too, play action just works. That's why you see when the Lions were running play action, 8th highest EPA on said plays. So overall, what you know is that Jared Goff really kind of became Jared Goff, the Goff that we all knew and love, right? The person that the Rams tried to get rid of were very conservative, very short passes. And that was kind of the main game that they were trying to go against. So if that's still what they're going to try and go out and do, I feel very good with this Bears defense. They matched up very well and they played very well against a quarterback that was trying to throw these short passes. And again, not trying to hit the deep or intermediate spaces at all. The other thing too, let me just see. I thought that I had another little piece. Another interesting nugget that I thought about with this Bears defense was we allowed 2.45 yards before contact, which was actually very bad. It's actually one of the worst lines in the entire NFL, or one of the bad lines for the NFL. This is from NFL Next Gen Stats. And then the linebacker, so that means the linebackers were able to make the tackles, which I credit a lot with Noah Sewell. And you kind of see that where they're saying that Noah Sewell, very good run defender, but pass defender, not so much. So I'm glad to see him kind of get back to that Sam linebacker spot where it feels like that's going to be where he is going to be a better at playing this. The other piece too that I just want to call out, that from the passing splits perspective, that the Detroit Lions did attack the middle of the field a lot, the fourth most in the NFL last week, and the Bears in the middle of the field were 27th with EPA per play, so not a good in the middle defense at all. So now you're hoping yet again, with Noah Sewell out, maybe, and TJ Edwards in, hopefully that fixes it. Hopefully that alleviates some of the concerns. But just a couple little pieces that I want to throw out there. Other stuff too, with Blitz EPA, Bears defense, number 1 in Blitz EPA, number 1 in non-Blitz EPA as well. So if you're curious, the Bears pass defense was really good. And it was really, really, really good. So that's all that you need to know. So hats off to Dennis Allen. Let's see what they can do against the Lions. So now let's actually look at some personnel and see that a little bit more. So with the Bears getting Edwards back, getting Johnson back, you feel a lot better about this secondary going out there. Nick McLeod did struggle. So I think that that's where you're just going to want to shadow it a little bit more. Because yet again, on the other side, you have St. Brown, who predominantly plays in the slot. And then they have their other receivers, Khalif Raymond and Jameson Williams, who can be more down the field types of threats. And the big reason why they attack the middle of the field is having Sam Laporta and St. Brown. So it's going to be key to try and lock down that middle. Because even though that Ben Johnson isn't there, Jared Goff can still complete short, easy passes right in front of him. Jahmyr Gibbs, though, I got to say, he looked good. I thought that he was trying to bust a lot of stuff out to the outside. And a big reason, Graham Glasgow ranked the worst center last week by PFF. The entire interior of that line, I felt, just didn't look good. I think if the Bears are going to try and attack this Lions team, everything is going to be in the middle. Coverage in the middle, but also pressure up the middle. Because if we're talking about the pressure up the middle, you have Grady Jarrett, you have Gervon Dexter. This is supposed to be the best part of that defensive line, honestly. Like, Gervon's supposed to take this next step. And Jarrett was a big money free agent. Let's see them start to try and do something. I've said this before. I'm a little skeptical with Grady Jarrett, so let silence me, right? I'd love to see him look like Grady Jarrett before he got that severe leg injury. So that's what I'm hoping to see overall. But let's see what y'all have to say out there in the comments. We got Broski out there. Noah Sewell is a middle linebacker. He'll take Edmonds' spot when the Bears cut him next year. There's an out in Edmonds. There is an out to Edmonds contract. Yeah, and then Broski saying we can't allow 20 to 30 yards per return. Agreed. Special teams. Ron, what's good, my friend? Saying bear down. He was out there tormenting the Lions chats. Love to see it. Broski saying Swift is a third down back we use as a lead back. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Actually, I forgot to mention this. I'll bring this up a little bit later. I can't believe I didn't talk about Monangai. I see special teams head coach, and Bajan would fix everything. Then Taco Man saying, TJ, we're out there. Jones would have never had that TD. Agreed. I think that the big thing is, so Edmonds, I thought Edmonds actually played a halfway decent game. And I've been very critical of Tremaine Edmonds. I thought that he played well. Now, I want to see TJ Edwards out there. Dennis Allen usually has his linebackers playing well, but this also kind of shows what's the difference in value that some different linebackers get, right? Tremaine Edmonds is getting paid top-end linebacker money, right? Borderline, like it's maybe $2 million less a year than Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, very good linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds hasn't been that for us yet. So the next thing too is let's talk about, actually, I forgot to mention this. We need to talk about what is your defensive matchup to watch out for this defense? Because for this defense, I'd say my biggest matchup is that slot corner position. I mean, I could still go with the trenches, but I think that the main thing is going to be McLeod versus St. Brown. That is going to be a absolute battle. St. Brown's going to try and do as much as he can. That's something that you just really have to lock down. And heck, I might even say like Kevin Byard with them or Jaquan Brisker with them, just because I feel like they're going to try and get multiple people out there to really try and just secure Equanimeous St. Brown. But let's see. Let's see what else is out there. Let's go to the next one and let's talk about some special teams review, where we've already been talking about special teams, and the special teams review is just frustrating because special teams hasn't been that good. So when we talk about kick and punt returns, I said this at the beginning of the season. I said this during preseason. And I am now going to absolutely pound the table, right? Because I'm like, okay, I want to see Luther Burden play because he's going, give him the opportunity, put the ball in his hands. He did not get the ball a lot at all. Make him the kick returner. Make him the punt returner. Now, I know that you have two kick returners out there and they're not going to give it to him. There's a reason why they don't want to give it to him and they want to give it to Devin Duvernay. When they gave it to Luther Burden, he went crazy and got a bunch of yards. Let Luther be the punt returner. And if you're curious about just how he is mentally, is he going to screw up, right? Maybe he goes out there and he fumbles it, right? But I can tell you this. Devin Duvernay bobbled 2 punt returns. So your secure option, like when the Bears, got Ted Ginn Jr., that secure option didn't really do much. Or Carter that we did one year, right? Give the ball to your playmaker, which is Luther Burden. Let him return it. So that's first and foremost. That's what we need. Because I understand having Zaccheaus out there. Because Zaccheaus is a reliable receiver that Caleb Williams trusts. And, so he's going to get that. But if you're not going to play him out, if you're not going to play Luther a lot, make him the punt returner. And just, it's frustrating. Make him the punt returner, Hightower. Come on. And then also, too, make some plays. And I don't know if Tory Taylor is taking extra steps, but it always seems like someone is about to block him. And also, too, Cairo Santos, we just signed Moody, which actually I remember, I think it was Shanahan got rid of him because he did not like Jake Moody or whatever his name is. So I at least like the signing because he's being signed to the practice squad, just going to kind of turn up the heat a little bit with Cairo Santos. Because Cairo Santos was asked to punt it or kick the kick return out of the end zone. He simply was not able to do that. And when someone's going to ask you to do that, you're a professional. And the fact he was not able to do that is sad. So it's not good. So I hope we don't have to talk about the special teams. I hope when Johnny PayPal and I made this show, the special teams review was basically a joke because we're like, hey, let's just cover everything. So why not the special teams? We shouldn't have to talk about it unless something bad happens, which here we are, something bad happened. So now let's talk about next, who has the edge? And I want to take this moment to go back to something else because I can't believe I forgot about this. This is my first show with the gigantic thing of data, and I just want to tell you about all the data coming from someone who loves himself. I love myself some data. So I just want to tell you every single stat. And for those that are listening, I want you to know all the stats that we got out there too. So that's why I say all those different statistics. But when we talk about this offense, this Bears offense, why not give it to Kyle Monangai? And I said this when we were watching the tape. I don't expect Kyle Monangai to be the second coming of Walter Payton, right? I don't expect him to all of a sudden fix all the woes of the run game. But what I know he's going to do is he's going to run the system. He's going to give you the yards that are in front of you, and he will get you those plays. What we saw DeAndre Swift do was blatantly go the opposite direction. And then someone comes off his blocker. And so then when someone sees this, they go, wow, Drew Dahlman sucks at run blocking because he let his guy up. It's like, no, Drew Dahlman was turned counterclockwise as DeAndre Swift decided to cut it back left and then get tackled by his guy. You know, the offensive linemen don't have eyes on the back of their head. That's why, to me, Kyle Monangai is someone that, why did we not give him a carry? We gave carries to DJ Moore, more so than we did Kyle Monangai. They keep preaching how much they trust this guy. Then why are you putting him in pass protection when we have not seen him literally have a good pass block rep on tape? Right? Make him run the football. And now Roschon's going to be back there as well. Why not split up the carries? Why not do something like that? It clearly is not working with DeAndre Swift, and DeAndre Swift is someone that needs the open field. And right now, as you're figuring out your run blocking, it's not at the spot that you want. Who's going to give you the hard-earned rushing yards? Kyle Monangai, right? Give it to the 7th round rookie that he at least wants to try and do something. That, to me, is what the Bears need to do. And that's why the Lions have the edge in the running game. And I think that Ben Johnson, even in an interview too, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I believe he said something, like someone asked him about Monangai and he wants to give him a carry, right? You need someone that just can simply run this offense, right? And that's the thing, is just be like, okay, just go over there, run the play, run the system. So to me, Monangai needs to be out there and get some snaps. And they'll probably give it to Roschon. You know, I don't mind that. I just want someone that can just simply run forward, run straight, and do some stuff like that. Not just give you a couple little bursts out there. So Lions get the edge on the running attack. I'm actually going to give it to the Bears in the passing game for the passing offense. And if we flip over to the defense, Dennis Allen's got me believing. I'm actually going to say that this passing defense is going to have the edge, and I'm going to say that their running attack has the edge. So I think that it's directly down in the middle. Dennis Allen, like I said, very, very impressive. Now, 1 week sample size, is it just because JJ McCarthy's garbage? Maybe both. Hopefully both, right? Hopefully both on both sides. But who has the edge? I'd say it's smack dab in the middle. That's why it's going to be a good game. That's why I'm actually surprised. Like, it's kind of crazy that the Bears are getting that many points. I think that if I had to give a specific edge, the Lions do have a bit of an edge because of just the fire that I feel they're going to be playing with, because Ben Johnson can tell them that this means a lot to him. But I guarantee you, all those players that are out there on offense know Ben Johnson, and they all want to beat Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell doesn't have to tell his players, we want to beat Ben Johnson, because they already want to beat Ben Johnson. Ben has to convince them to beat them for him. So that's something that, if you want to say the edge, I think overall the edge is slightly to the Lions. So now next, what we have is our game predictions. So let me know down below, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time to throw in your score predictions. Who do you think is going to win? And also give me one bold prediction. I was hoping Kyle Monangai was going to get some rush yards. I was furthest from the truth. And that's the thing. Like, maybe if he did have the 20 yards I was predicting, maybe he would have actually, maybe we would have won, right? But let's see. My score prediction. It's one of those where, like, I can't. Like, a lot of these score predictions just turn into me just being like, you want Bears, right? Because I want to pick the Bears. I want to pick the Bears so bad. But like I said, I think that the Lions do have somewhat of an edge with this. Just because I think that they are going to be a little bit feisty. But I do think that I think that the Bears can. I think that they can definitely rebound and do something. So we got Shy Drax out there, 41-21 Bears. Love that. I'm gonna pick against us. I'm gonna pick against us, 27-20. I'll give it to the Lions. Even though I'm like, I wanted to pick the Bears. I want to pick the Bears, right? I think that the Lions are going to come out hot and really just try and put it. Yeah, boo me, Taco Man, come on. But yeah, I think that the Lions are going to come out with a lot of heat, and but I think that if the Bears are going to win, it's going to be up to Caleb. I think that it's going to be this, right? We are either going to have like I said before, if we lose, we're all going to be thinking, well, maybe we don't have this. Maybe Caleb's not it. Maybe Ben's on it, right? That's going to be the vibe of what people are going to try and be pushing, right? But if we win, I think it's going to be because of Caleb. And that's why I think if we win, it's going to be an absolutely glorious time. But a bold prediction, I'm going to say it's, I don't know if it's sacked by Gervon Dexter and Grady Jarrett. I'll double up like that. I'll do a bold take like that. And then also too, Shy Drax asking Sunday night show. Yes. So 7:30 Central Time. I am looking to have that show out so that we can kind of make sure that we have that going. So yeah. Johnny PayPal would pick the Bears. That's very, very right, Drax. But awesome. So that's our show. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, happy Friday, and we will be live after the Bears game around 7:30. So a night show, not directly after the game. So we'll be there, and we'll be talking about the Bears. Hope to see you there. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and